Now, create a bar graph showing all of the orders of specific products from my Firestore database. First, we're querying all of the orders that have been made, and then we're going to use the MCP server graph to create a beautiful bar graph. A graph made just from the Gemini CLI showing me my data from Firestore. Thank you, Gemini CLI. That was a preview of what's possible with the Firestore extension for the Gemini CLI. I'm Billy Jacobson. I'm a senior developer advocate at Google with a focus on data and AI. And today we're going to be doing a deep dive on that Firestore extension for the Gemini CLI. I'll show you how to install it, configure it, do any debugging if it's not working right for you, and show you some of the possibilities of what you can do with it. Let's take a look. All right, we're here on the Gemini CLI extensions page, and they just released extensions recently. And these basically provide a really nice packaging to add more tools and capabilities to this agentic terminal. They can include the MCP servers, they can include custom commands and context files. And you might have installed some of these already on your own or mixed and matched with them. But basically extensions put all of these into one file and one package, and you can install it with just one command. So it's just a lot easier to jump in faster. But basically under the hood, it's just these three things packaged together nicely. Now on this browse extensions page, there are about 125 extensions you can use. The GitHub one, the Chrome DevTools one, I've heard that one's really good. Stripe. So you can basically take any of these and install them right into your Gemini CLI. We're going to be using the Firestore native extension. I can click this and go over to the GitHub page, which shows you a little bit more about what it can do. This extension is going to allow you to do actions on documents like adding them, getting them, as well as collections. So listing collections, you can also query collections, and then you can also use this to manage your rules for security for Firestore. And if we scroll to the top, I'm just going to show you a little bit of how this works. You don't really have to worry about this too much, but sometimes I feel with a lot of these new AI tools, it can just feel really magical of what's happening, and I want to make it a lot more clear for you. So the first thing I think is pretty simple is this Firestore native document. And this basically just gives the instructions to Gemini CLI. It's going to append this to the instructions, and we'll say okay, make sure you've got the environment variables configured and provide a nice message if they don't have those yet. And then here's also the guidelines on how it should be using the resources. And this is just instructions for the agent and for the model to be able to act correctly. You are a highly skilled database engineer and database administrator helping someone out. So that is one of the files in this extension. And let's go back. Also a lot of these are just like the GitHub documents. And then the other aspect is, where is it? I think just Gemini extension. So in this Gemini extension file, this is what's configuring it. And it's basically saying we're going to use that context file. And then we're also grabbing an MCP server. And this extension is just these two things. It's the Firestore MCP server and the Firestore native, that markdown document we just looked at. And this MCP server is using the MCP toolbox for databases, which I've done a few videos on, and using their pre-built Firestore MCP server. That's basically all you need to know to start with this extension and know what its capabilities are going to be. But now let's jump in and install it. From the extensions page, you can either just grab the link from here. I think if you just click it, copy, you can get the command from there. I'm going to grab it just from GitHub because it has some of the other instructions too, and I think that makes it a little easier to follow along. So we'll copy this command, which is just Gemini extensions install, and then this link. I'll paste that right into my terminal. You're going to want to run this before you open up the Gemini CLI so it can install it, and then when you relaunch it, you'll have that information. It's asking if I want to confirm it and install it. See, it's adding the Firestore native markdown to my Gemini markdown. Great. Continue. The extension was installed successfully and enabled. Fantastic. Now, there are also a few other prerequisites you'll need. So you'll need the Gemini CLI set up, of course, and some authentication. But I assume you already will have that working if you're using the Gemini CLI. But this is what you need to add is this configuration so you can connect your Firestore project to this extension. I just have a .env file, which has this information. I'll open that up. So I've got my Gemini API key in here, which is just connecting to my API services. And then it's this Firestore project and Firestore database. So just find your project ID and whichever database you're using, You don't need the database if you're just using the default one, but you might have several databases. So if you just set this file up and put it into your current working directory, you should be good to go. Here, I've just got it right in this folder that I'm working in. Now I'll open up Gemini and show you that it's working correctly. Great, I've got 2 MCP servers and 2 Gemini files, but let's see what these are. Let's actually use the /extensions command to see what we've got. So we'll list the extensions. I've got the Context 7 extension, and now my Firestore native extension is active, up to date, and installed. I can also see if I go to MCP, I can list the MCP server that I have and see which ones I've got. So Firestore from the Firestore native extension is ready, and it has these 8 tools available. Fantastic. Now, when I was setting this up, since I have a lot of different projects I'm switching between, I actually ran into an authentication issue, and I just want to show you a quick way to debug that. So I'll open this up. I set it up so it should fail right now, and I can Control O, and I'll see there was an error looking for that Firestore connection, but it didn't work correctly. If I go to /MCP list, I'll see that the MCP server is disconnected. But this actually doesn't give me very helpful information to know what to do. So my recommendation is to Control C out of there and then rerun Gemini with Gemini --debug. This is going to output a lot more information and give you a more clear error to work with. So I'll do Control O again. And now I see that it was unable to initialize this source and create the client because it was opening wrong /auth.json, no such file or directory. So now I can go in here, figure out why is it trying to connect to this wrong auth thing? Oh, because that's where I put my Google application credentials, which are incorrect. So I'll delete that, save it again. And then when I rerun this, it should work properly. Now if we do /MCP, list, great, it's working again. If that doesn't work, there are also a few other troubleshooting tips on the GitHub page. Mainly they're about credentials or that you just don't have the latest version of things installed. But I just wanted to make sure everyone could get on the same page and get this working. Now that our Firestore extension in the Gemini CLI is working, what can we do with it? What are we going to do? So, we've got these available tools to add, delete, get documents, get the rules, collections, stuff like that. I have an example Firestore database, just a few users and products and orders. So let's use this as our starting point to see the possibilities here. Let's start out by listing collections. So I'm going to ask the Gemini CLI to do that. Please list the collections for me. Thank you. And I'm doing this with text to speech because it makes everything so much easier. I feel like the advancements in text to speech, no, I'm using voice to text actually. I find voice to text just so useful for this. So it's asking me for a few permissions here. So you can really control what you want it to do. So it's wanting to run the list collections command. I can allow it once. I can allow it to always run list collections when it needs to, or I can allow any tools from the server Firestore. I'm just going to allow list collections for now because maybe I don't want it to be able to update or delete documents yet. So this allows me to kind of control what commands it's able to do. All right, it's found there's orders, products, and users. Great. Now I want to find out more information about who are the users in this database. Who are all of the users in my database? So that did a list collections command before, and now we're going to have to do a query collection. So I'm going to just allow query collection. It's queried the collection. It's gotten all this mess of JSON of all the objects and information, and it actually formatted it really nicely down here. We've got Alice and Bob and Charlie and Diana and Evan, and each of them has some loyalty points and also has an email address. We can take this even a step further and ask for a more complicated query. Give me all of the users who have more than 150 loyalty points. And now it's going to run a new query, still using query collection, and it's able to filter on that. So we found Charlie and Evan have those loyalty points. Let's do one more thing here. I'm going to create a new document for myself. Create a new document for Billy. It's like, I'm not in the database. I should be in the database, definitely. It's warming up the AI hamsters. Perfect. And now it's asking me a question actually, which is helpful. It's not just going off and doing whatever it wants. Create the new user Billy in the user's collection with email and loyalty points. I'm just going to tell it, yes, just make up the data as needed. It's just for a demo. This is one of the great things about this. As I've been building out this demo to show you all and show you how to use it, it's been so easy to say, I want this data, make me this data, clear out the database and restart it, and without having to go in and write code to deal with any of that. So now I want to allow it to add documents. Yep, we'll click yes to allow that. Great, 150 loyalty points, fantastic. I'm gonna refresh this page to find myself in here. Great, now I've got 150 loyalty points. Let's do one more cool thing. I always love with Firestore where you can update the values somewhere else and have it appear in real time. So let's now try that. Okay, now add 50 loyalty points for Billy. It's finding the record and then it's adding the loyalty points. So first I think it found my file to know how many loyalty points I had, and now it wants to update it. I'm gonna allow it to update the data. And bam, right from the terminal to Firestore, I was able to see that change happen. I think this extension is definitely really useful if you are developing an application and Firestore is your database. It's so much easier to just get a quick piece of information of what's in that database, what's in that collection. Maybe you want to know the shape of that data and understand that as you're writing code. Or maybe you're going to have it query a collection, see that data, and maybe you'll have it create an interface that will pair perfectly with what those fields are in that data. I also think with something like the Gemini CLI, it's so easy to combine with other MCP tools. Earlier you might have seen I have the MCP server chart, and I'm gonna ask for a graph of some of this data. Like, let's see what it can do there. Create a graph of all of the users and their loyalty points. Great, it's getting the data, and then now it's going to ask me if it can use the MCP server chart. I'm just going to allow it to use all those tools. It's created a bar chart showing the loyalty points for each user, and I can view it at this URL. I'm going to copy this. Wow, we've just instantly been able to create a bar chart showing this data, allowing me to get a quick visual of what's happening. It's just so nice to be able to develop and iterate and see data so quickly in a more disposable format without having to make this into a whole dashboard or query it or something. There's just a lot of possibilities here to speed up your development workflow, and I think it's really exciting. All right, that's a wrap on the Firestore extension for the Gemini CLI. In just a few minutes, I showed you how to install it, configure it, debug it a little bit, and see some of the possibilities of what you can use it for. I hope you found it useful, and there are going to be links in the description for you to set all this up on your own and try it out. So please let me know if you do. And if you found this video useful, give it a like, subscribe to my channel for more content like this. Thank you so much for watching.